Okay, MCU fans, I want you to imagine a scenario in which Chris Evans, playing an evil Hydra Cap, will be pitted against Sam Wilson as a good and just Captain America. Believe it or not, some insiders and scoopers are saying that might be exactly what Kevin Feige wants to do. What's up, everybody? It's Josh. Welcome back to the channel. Smash that like button, and I want to remind you that a large part of what we are doing with the Den of Nerds is happening over on our live streaming channel. Go check it out. It's real cool. Okay, now when it comes to this Captain America news, there's a ton of stuff being talked about out there, a lot of rumors, leaks, scoopers, all of the usual business. I want to just sort of give you fair warning here. This is very rumor-based, okay? So a lot of this is coming from Daniel Richtman or Daniel Richtman's Patreon, and then when other insiders sort of bounce off what they have heard from it, I sort of just look at all of it and try to surmise what I think is going on. This particular story has some things that are pretty sound and some things that are rumored and pretty far out. And I think the honest to goodness truth about this entire situation is that things are in massive motion, okay? So I think something like a Hydra Cap was on the table no matter what, but I think Chris Evans coming back to play Hydra Cap may well be a new development and may well be changing things from behind the scenes. And before we get too far into the weeds, let's sort of clarify where a lot of the rumors and reports are currently at. This has to do with Doctor Strange 2 Into the Multiverse of Madness, which has quietly had some rumors and some speculation of castings that are even crazier than Spider-Man 3. I mean, Spider-Man 3 is soaking up all the headlines, but quietly things like a Tom Cruise Iron Man, a Hugh Jackman Wolverine, a John Krasinski Hydra Captain America, and now maybe Chris Evans as Hydra Cap are all things that are associated and attached to the Doctor Strange movie. The movie is literally called Into the Multiverse of Madness, and with all of the things we've been seeing in the MCU as far as the multiverse and what it's going to do, leading to Quantumania and maybe things that are crazy after that, all Marvel fans expect Doctor Strange 2 to be an insane film where all kinds of crazy things could go down. Now, just recently, it came out that Chris Evans is looking to sign a new contract to return to the MCU for a number of different projects. That looks to be pretty legit, although we don't know for sure if Chris has actually signed or not. Furthermore, people were immediately speculating that this had something to do with Wolverine, which is interesting because now Daniel Richtman has come out and said that he believes this is for a 3-picture or 3-project deal in which one appearance for Chris Evans will be as Hydra Cap in Doctor Strange 2, and then 2 more appearances will be associated with a Wolverine project, whether that be a Disney Plus series or something that would happen on the silver screen. And most recently, Daniel Richtman on his Patreon is speculating that Hydra Cap with Chris Evans will be pitted against Sam Wilson Captain America, as Sam Wilson as Cap is still the play, and more or less that is the way that Falcon and the Winter Soldier will end, will be with Sam Wilson fully embracing the role of Captain America, or at least that is what we have been led to believe. And therefore, it seems like they're going to head in a scenario where Anthony Mackie as Captain America, perhaps even with old man Steve Rogers still available to him in some regards as a mentor figure, right? Because that Steve is not dead, and that's important to keep in mind. Yeah, that's Sam Wilson Captain America. Our Captain America will likely have to lead the Avengers and perhaps a multiversal group of Avengers against the tyranny of a person and a being that looks exactly like Steve, the one that handed him the shield. And that is going to mess with him. Now, here is the thing, okay? That's really where a lot of the stories and the rumors and the reports stop, and then now we will get into speculation, right? So take my hand and we're going to speculation town, baby.
What is this place?
But before we do, I just want to remind you that this is really rumor-based. We don't know for sure, but it lines up with not only the way I think Feige does business, because he always has these things in motion, but he's able to change things and move things around, okay? So he's a genius with that kind of stuff, and he's also really good at producing in the sense that he knows what fans want, and he can do crazy things. Like, for instance, there's a big-time rumor that Feige is working hard to get Nick Cage to come back as Ghost Rider in Doctor Strange 2 as well. He is currently trying to do all of this stuff, but if he doesn't get Nick Cage, he still will move somebody into the Ghost Rider role. And it feels like that's the same thing that's going on with Hydra Cap. I think Feige wants Hydra Cap to be a big part of the multiversal struggle and perhaps even a Cabal-like or Dark Avengers-like team. And I really do believe that John Krasinski was going to play that version of Captain America. However, I think he just changed it, man. I think getting Chris back is a huge deal, and it would be perfect to put Chris back in there, especially because the added tension that would create between Sam and that Steve. Okay, so now let's get into the speculation about this, because what's really interesting about this is this Nick Spencer run with Hydra Cap was actually not a super popular run at the time. And we're going to get into a lot of this nerdy stuff and like culture war stuff and people getting angry on the internet, so this might not be stuff that you super enjoy. But here's the thing. The reason I find this so interesting and I'm fascinated by them doing Hydra Cap is because that Hydra Cap run was considered sort of like a deconstruction of Steve, and especially until you realize what's actually going on at the end, people felt like they had essentially turned Captain America into, you know, one of those really evil German soldiers that he famously fought against. And at a time when people in the world, and particularly comic book fans, felt like the comic book industry was doing all this ideological preaching and putting certain political views into the books and besmirching people that had different political views, this run was hit with a ton of controversy. And not only that, there were just hardcore comic book fans that were like, you don't do that to Cap, and they didn't like it. Now, I'll get into how that run went, and perhaps we'll talk about that on the live streaming channel. We've been doing a lot of that where we break down runs and talk about the efficacies of it all. But I will just say this. I actually enjoyed the Nick Spencer run, and one of the reasons why is because it is Steve. Like, it's not Steve, and it's kind of hard to explain it. I'd have to explain the ending, but basically it's even more Steve than the Skrulls were those people when they became those people, which comic book sweaties will know what I'm talking about. But essentially, this was a version of Steve Rogers, and this version of Steve Rogers even spoke like Steve. It wasn't like this guy was maniacal and totally evil. He actually would say things that seemed like things Steve would say. It's just like it would take him to a different conclusion, and he was authoritarian with it. It was really interesting. It's a lot like how the evil Superman in the Injustice games and then the Injustice comic books, he was still Superman. He still had all these beliefs, but it was like an authoritarian version of Superman. That's what happened with Hydra Cap. And it's fascinating too because he's literally worthy. The whole thing starts with him picking up Mjolnir and proving that he is worthy. And so a lot of heroes that loved Cap and respected Cap, they just chose to follow him because they were like, okay, well, I've always loved Cap. This is Cap, and boom, I'm going with him. And then there were other people like Sam Wilson that did not go with him. And so I just think it's a fascinating choice to do this version of Captain America across from a version of Captain America in Sam Wilson. And especially because the place we are at as a society and where we're at, a lot of these themes and things are still very real and very much affecting society. And also, I personally am a fan of Feige going for these things that weren't necessarily handled perfectly in the comics, because this run wasn't perfect, and a lot of the stuff that was going on around this time in Marvel was definitely not perfect. A lot of people complain about it. So I'd love to see Feige handle it and just do it better, dude. And the MCU could do it better. Like Sam literally looking across at the face of his mentor, at the face of like someone he loves like a brother, and that person being evil and doing all these crazy evil things, and the struggle of that for that character, I think would be fascinating to see. It would be exciting for Chris to come back to the role and play that version of it and do some really evil, kind of crazy evil things. I think he'd be excited for that. The press tour would be fun. The lead up to the film would be fun. It would be crazy to watch, you know what I mean, on screen. Who knows how crazy powerful this Cap, the Hydra Cap, could be. He was very powerful in the comic book version, so it just seems like the right recipe of things that I think the MCU needs to embrace, right? A lot of people are complaining or seemingly there's this idea that the MCU has been stagnant, and a lot of it's too similar, it's too cookie cutter. And, you know, we saw with Ragnarok, Infinity War, and Endgame, and I would even argue Far From Home, that it's really starting to expand. And with things like WandaVision currently coming out, it looks like it's going to get wild as hell, and then you're going to have Loki, etc., etc. Doctor Strange 2 into the Multiverse of Madness is going to be nuts, ladies and gentlemen. Absolute insanity. And the fact that you might actually have Hydra Cap facing off against Sam Wilson Cap as the big headline thing, Fantastic stuff. I'm super excited and here for it. But that's my speculation about it. A little bit of talk about the run itself, some of the reasons why I think it's so cool, and of course, the actual reports and news, which are mostly coming from Daniel Richtman. There's some people like Casey Walsh that are, saying this, that, and sort of hinting that a lot of this stuff is true as well. So, who knows for sure, but it seems like Feige might be setting up Hydra Cap Chris Evans versus Sam Wilson Captain America with Anthony Mackie. It's going to be a fantastic showdown. Let us know what you think about it in the comment section below. Again, stay subscribed to this channel. Tons of cool nerdy videos coming at you in 2021. And go check out the live streaming channel. We do a ton of cool streams over there. If you haven't checked it out, what are you doing? As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day. And I'll see you in the next video.